right. Josh, what episode is it?
67.
67.
67. See,
You're Johnny on the spot.
I don't know if you saw the last episode where I train wrecked it. I'm pretty sure I called it the wrong thing.
I didn't catch that part of it. It was a good episode. I text you. I think Nicole needs to be on more often.
She's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I have a bias. But
Yeah. No, it's a good bias. You should be. Yes. Well, so episode 67. Glad to be back. Where were you guys at?
So we shot at the Riso's house.
Okay. It's like I didn't recognize that fireplace even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
cool.
And the only thing that, like, hindsight, that I wish we would have done, and I mean, it's my fault, right? Like, I shifted my chair a little back, so I'm slightly back from Nicole, so like my head looks tiny. Like if on the video, it's like, when they shot the Lord of the Rings, right? Like all these trick video things they do to make, the hobbits look like they're itty bitty. So my head looked tiny. So
I didn't notice it
because of the angle of the shot and everything like that. So
Chad and I listened, and he listened. I watched the podcast sitting on a screened-in porch with the sun, like
that's rough,
baking into this screened-in porch. It was like 70s. It was perfect, bro.
Where was it? Where were you? Were you in Orlando?
No. We flew into Orlando, but I have work every year. Every third
I can't ever
week
remember where these
of February
are.
Is in Merritt Island, which is Cocoa Beach, Cape Canaveral area.
Oh yeah, because she had like the spaceship stuff.
Oh man, and they had stuff going on and the whole thing. He went down there for a whole day. Ian actually came with me, so a lot of our clients got to meet Ian. Ian's our operations manager, which was really cool. As he's more involved with the business now. Great trip. Home this week.
And then
headed right back to Orlando this Sunday
for Expo.
I'm home 2 weeks. Then I head to Colorado, home for about 2 weeks, and I head back down to Tampa.
Holy cow, man.
Yeah. So
you're just like traveling man.
Yeah.
You should write a song about that or something. Yeah. That's right.
Rambling man. Who did
Yeah, that is the thing.
Rambling man. Something. Who knows? Who knows?
If you know who it is, put it in the comments. Yeah. They're on the YouTubes right there for us.
And we're close with subscribers.
Yeah, we were, 988 or something the last time I looked.
Just 12 people until we get to things. Super fun. Now, another question, Josh. Have you happened to look at registrations for the coffee event?
I haven't. Honestly, I didn't even check to see if it was live. Is it live?
It's live because Haley put it on pre-roll. I don't know how to check because I just have PCO or I just have like the services app, so I don't even know how to check. I have to be on my computer.
I don't know if I can do it.
You have to do it from a computer. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to do it from there. Yeah, there it is. Look at that. Look at that.
This doesn't
tell you how many spots left.
So there are 29 spots remaining. It says.
Okay.
So we've got 21 people have already
registered.
Signed up.
Cool. That's awesome.
Rock and roll.
Yeah. And that was one thing that I did when I was down in Florida. I brought back a tremendous amount of coffee. I also sent you a picture of that.
Okay.
Looked like a drug dealer.
Yeah. I was like, this is a really random picture of like vacuum sealed.
It was so much coffee. We went to a shop called Deeply in Orlando. Nope, wrong side. I had to get one of these hats. It's like a wax canvas. Really dig this hat. One of the best shots of espresso I've had at a shop.
Okay.
Really, probably top 5. Really, really, really good. Then we went to Lineage. We went to Foxtail. I'm hoping that next week when we're in Orlando, we can go to Deeply again because I will buy more coffee.
Okay. So did you spread out like the coffee you bought from some of these different places, or you got it all at Deeply?
No. I got some at Deeply. I got some at Lineage. Actually, Sunday afternoon when we flew out of Chicago, Ian, Chad, and I stopped at Metric, which Metric we've had on this podcast a number of times. Metric is beautiful coffee. I think I bought 5 pounds just at Metric. Okay. Because I got a lot of coffee dork friends down in Florida. And so we traded bags. So I got a bunch of coffee from Black and White. A pastor friend of mine knows the roaster at Black and White, which we had Black and White at our last tasting.
Were they the ones that had the tasty note of Lucid? You remember that
Maybe.
one that we did? And
It had
I
like a
think we did it-
geometric animal on the front of
I
it.
think
Is
that
the one?
was because then
Really good coffee.
Is that one that we did as a Japanese cold pour? Because I think that was the one where it was
think so.
lucid was a tasty note, and none of us knew what that meant.
I've got another unique brewer that I just picked up called an Odo or something. It's an immersion style pour over brewer. It's really interesting. It uses AeroPress filters, so we'll have that. We're gonna have all kinds of stuff.
We're gonna experiment a little bit.
Yeah. We still got to teach you how to do a clever. Maybe you just bring your Chemex.
Bring my Chemex. Although I mean, I'm not top shelf like pro with it.
Hey.
I've been playing around.
Do you have a gooseneck kettle?
I don't. So I've got like a little cast iron thing. Like so, I'll use that because it's got a much smaller.
The gooseneck's important for Chemex.
Come.
Yeah, we can learn you. If you just want to watch Daddy Hoff's videos,
Daddy Hoff.
Yeah, James Hoffman. They call him,
he's that coffee
they call
god
him
or whatever.
Coffee Messiah.
Okay. I knew it was something borderline blasphemous.
It is. He's a wizard on the coffee. His book on coffee, it's like history and then like the best of the best brewing techniques. It's a hardbound book, beautiful book. That's worth buying.
It's a veritable Harry Potter of coffee.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Him and Lance Hendrick, which is another fantastic. He's from Onyx Coffee, which we've had Onyx on here. We've had a lot of really good coffee. My pastor friend Eric Collum, who sent us coffee from Colorado, he texted me this weekend, and he was doing a day with his wife, and they went to Corvus. They were at the Corvus Roasters. Corvus is in Denver.
Okay.
And so I was a little jealous. A little jealous of Eric. Yeah, because that coffee is... The Savage Geisha is one of the most special. The El Rinca El Noble one that we had here, that was 95 on the Q grade. One of the best coffees we've drank. But what are we drinking today?
We're essentially world travelers today. Thanks to Devon.
Devon and Megan Schupp.
Yeah.
Devon's an avid listener. He listens. He's a truck driver. And so he told me yesterday at church that he loves listening to the podcast. It helps him on his day. And he so kindly and graciously brought us some coffee. All we know about this coffee, it's from Puerto Rico, and it was directly...
He picked it up like in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And he's got information on this page. Neither of us have looked at this yet.
Yep.
So I've got one. I have one note that I want to register officially. Because it's like a...
I know what I'm
it's
saying. Green apples.
Okay, because I feel like it's fruity, but not Ethiopian fruity. It's got a different type of body to it. I'm getting my one guess is going to be plum.
I'm saying green apple. It's getting tastier as it cools. Very, very hot. It was a little more pungent, and now that it's warming or it's cooling down, it's got a good flavor. Yeah, I'm gonna go with tart cherries or green apples. Is definitely I'm locking in with that.
I'm gonna say plum, and I think there's a floral.
Okay. Like rose petals.
I'm usually that's right. I'm usually wrong with anything in that neighborhood.
Daffodils. What do they taste like? So there's a Chinese restaurant we go to in Mattawan, which listeners, viewers, if you want extremely, not buffet, extremely good Mandarin Chinese food, Chin Chin in Mattawan. If you go west on 94 out of Kalamazoo or Portage, and they have edible orchids that they will have on the plate when they serve you some of their food. I've eaten one before. Tasted like nothing.
Oh,
I mean, basically like water. But
kind of a downer.
Yeah, that story came about because we were talking about what is a daffodil.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I'm gonna say plum and honeysuckle.
Ooh,
those are my two guesses there. All right, let's see
Devon.
what we've got. Oh, look, he's got a picture of him on there.
We gotta put that on the camera. Look away, everyone. It's focused.
Yeah, everybody
it's
say
focused.
hi, Devon.
Thanks, Devon.
So it's Finca something.
So that's Farm of.
So that's where it was.
Okay.
All right.
It's a nice
it's right down here. Finca Cielitos Cafe Selecto.
$30. Oh, that's expensive, Devon.
Devon's the
big
dude spender right here. Fueling our coffee habit.
Thank you for your generosity of sharing.
Reflection.
He shared, I believe it's about 30 grams because I had enough for 2 cups already, 25 grams. I'll have a little taste later too.
So this is a single origin, small batch roasted. It says this is their flagship product, carefully handpicked and sourced directly from our family-owned coffee farm. Again, I didn't even know that they
Look how big that door is. That's him.
Yeah, you could like, Devon, you could stand on your own shoulders and
the door to that cafe was like, that's got to be 15 feet tall at the top of the...
Oh, way up there.
I mean, he's 6
probably.
foot, 12 foot, 14, 15 foot, I bet.
Yeah, that's a big door.
Whatever.
Maybe they have giants down in Puerto Rico
Nephilim.
that like coffee. But, no, but like I said,
Arabica.
made in small batches, this medium city roast, single
medium.
origin Arabica coffee.
He has covered the notes for us.
All right, I'm peeling this back.
It's like a Post-it note. What do we have?
Balanced flavor profile with notes of caramel and chocolate. All right, so I was way wrong. I'm like not even close. They're delivering a smooth and velvety cup, which I would agree with that.
It has a velvety texture
and like that body. I would agree with that. But I sucked on those notes.
Yeah, that's I wasn't even close.
So,
but regardless.
Well, hey, Devon and Megan.
Thank you for your...
Appreciate you fueling our habit right here.
Cheers. And hopefully, Devon and Megan, you have signed up for the coffee tasting event. I will see Megan on Wednesday when this podcast goes live because Megan is part of a midweek class that we're going through a book together.
Oh, is she doing the other half of the church?
She is.
Oh, rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Yep. Her and there's about 8 or 9 of us that are going through that book together. It's been pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We didn't start a timer, Josh.
Oh no.
Yeah. All right.
That got me in trouble last week. We've only been talking maybe a minute and a half.
I'm going to say 10. We've been 10 minutes.
Okay.
Is what I'm
just
going
to be safe.
Yep. And we're going to go ahead. And we'll do that. We'll start our timer now. We'll say we've got 50 minutes because we're trying to be disciplined.
We are.
To stay under an hour.
I grossly misjudged last week.
Over,
no, but I was like, we've been talking for maybe like a minute, and it had been like 4 or 5 or something like that. So.
We've got to get you. I got to get you set up with the lapel external mics.
Well,
that we have
so that was the
in
downside because I used the Shure, the one that we just plug in. But the room we were in also
cavernous.
It was a little bit big. I mean, beautiful.
Chris's home was beautiful,
but
beautiful.
It was. I didn't think through the audio piece.
I just need to show you how to use these things because they're fantastic. And we're going to bring. I'm going to bring some gear.
I was going to ask you if we're like, hey, we gonna shoot down there?
Absolutely. We'll shoot down there. This time we'll remember to bring a selfie stick or a tripod.
Yeah, what do we have?
We piled stuff up against
a potted plant or something like that.
Books and whatever else. But I will bring my mics. I've got some lapel mics that we'll just clip to our shirts, and we'll set it up with a single iPhone. Maybe I'll bring one of my cameras. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe
we're flying Southwest, which means Southwest.
We think.
Pretty sure.
We hope.
Because it's like Southwest is insane. You get 2 free checked bags up to 50 pounds each.
See, the problem is
you get 2 carry-ons.
I pack way too light to take advantage of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like what I might do is I'll check my clothes, which I usually don't do on Southwest. I bring them on the plane with me, and then I'll bring my camera box, which I will not be checking. I would be taking that on the plane.
Don't need that played football with by the old
no
baggage peeps.
No, my last film shoot in Tampa, that's what I did was I took a hard case and I just paid for it to be a carry-on because I was like, well, it's kind of like this one that's over my shoulder here, but much smaller. That one's a giant one. But I have a small one that is carry-on approved.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yesterday, ER installment number trace.
Yes.
We looked at the question, how do we resolve conflict?
Based out of Matthew 12.
Matthew 12, which I got to say, when I saw a Matthew passage, I thought it was going to be a different one.
Okay.
But it wasn't.
Yeah.
So it was cool. So Matthew 12, I'm going to read that for us here today.
Yeah.
Matthew 12, 33 through 37. Let me flip to that just in case you haven't had a chance to go and catch the message, which you should probably just pause this episode and go and do that.
Chad produced it and put it out yesterday. I saw it on the feed this morning.
All right, it says this. Either make the tree good, this is Jesus talking, either make the tree good and its fruit will be good, or make the tree bad and its fruit will be bad. For a tree is known by its fruit. Brood of vipers, Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees here. How can you speak good things when you are evil? For the mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart. A good person produces good things from his storeroom of good, and an evil person produces evil things from his storeroom of evil. I tell you that on the day of judgment, people will have to account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be acquitted, and by your words you will be condemned.
Wow.
It's got a little weight to it, I dare say.
Definitely. How do I resolve conflict? He came right out of the gate with some levity, we'll say. 10 different characteristics of how people deal with conflict. Josh, what remarks did you resemble?
Well, so I'm gonna read all 10.
Okay.
And then
you'll
we'll
confess?
jump into that. Then I'll
Okay,
confess.
I will too.
Here to my brother and to our viewers.
Even though
listeners.
Ryan said that we weren't supposed to elbow each other, Lisa and I were elbowing each other.
like
That's you. She said to me and I said to her.
I love it. All right, these are the 10. And this is my, you know what? I'll pull up the slide because I kind of like shorthand.
I did the exact same thing because he was so
abbreviated
fast.
we were cruising through
and
those
he went
buggers.
through a lot of scripture. It was pretty awesome.
All right, so the 10 as he presented it. Number 1, get it off my chest. What happened? I'm just messing stuff up here with my phone. Get it off my chest. This is like you just vomit.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is I'm upset about.
Short fuse.
Blah, like I'm
Short
just getting
fuse.
it out there.
Yep.
The silent treatment. Like what's wrong? Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm fine.
Nothing.
I'm fine. Leave me alone. Gunny sacking, which I never heard that term before.
Lisa and I did not understand it either.
I was like, I don't know what that means. So he said, store it up until you burst.
Yeah, so that's long fuse.
So yeah, you
And a
just
record
go
of
like-
wrongs.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I mean that gets into the number 5 too. Number 4 was escape. Right. This could be alcohol, a substance, shopping,
Eating.
whatever. I mean, all variety of vices. Number 5 is recall old lists. This is that. Well, yeah. Remember when you
1922?
That's right. You and Jimmy. Number 6, pretend it never happened. Right. This is just kind of like perpetual denial. Oh, we're fine.
Yeah.
We're good.
It's good. No big deal.
Nothing to fix here.
Yep.
Number 7, and this one was interesting. Confide in the kids.
This
Now,
is terrible.
This would be primarily in like a marriage. What would be like a workplace equivalent? Because again, this isn't just a marriage series.
Yeah.
It'd just be like, hey, I'm going to go.
I would
and I'm
say
gonna-
like a workplace equivalent would be, rather than having the conversation with the direct report, would be to go sideways to someone who is also direct reporting to that person and commiserate. You know what I mean?
Or is that more of like the number 9? We'll get there in a minute.
Okay.
Well, number 8 is blame.
That is,
Right? So
you're
this
right,
is
yeah.
like the broken need. Number 9, this is vent with your friends
Right.
rather than solve with your spouse. Or this could be, again, rather than go to your employer or your employee.
Yeah.
You go somewhere else. Which there was an interesting point brought up. I'm trying to remember who I was talking to. It doesn't matter if I remembered. I wouldn't say who it was anyways. But they were asking about this, right? And just the idea of like, well, yeah, but how do you? What if you need to go process with somebody?
Yes.
Right before I go and engage somebody in
Yes.
this conflict. Should I process with somebody? Beforehand to make sure. Okay, hey, maybe I'm totally out of line here.
Right.
Where's the balance between that and what this is? Well, I was going to say sometimes it is valuable to go and process with somebody. You have to be first of all, you have to be wise in who that person is.
Yes, definitely.
Shouldn't be just anybody.
Yeah.
But it should also be done with the intention of now going to the person that the conflict is with. If if all you ever do is go and process with your friend,
Right.
this is sideways.
It's just gossiping.
Yeah. Now we're just griping about stuff. And then number 10 was pity party. Like we're just gonna
Eeyore, woe is me.
live in a little self pity place.
Yeah.
I would say there are actually a couple of them. Silent treatment that aligns with my temperament. I can just kind of shut down.
Shut down. Okay.
With that, how did he define the one? Because I would say sometimes escape, but not in like a substance or shopping. Sometimes I can be a stress eater.
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too.
That's one for me. So you talked about eating.
Yep.
That can be one of them.
Yep.
And then I would say my other one, big one that I would often go into is that pity party. Just kind of I'm going to sit here and just wallow in this
focus on
negative thing. And, so yeah, those would be, I think, the primary ones for me. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it off my chest. Lisa will tell you I'm an outward processor, and so that's definitely one for me. But I have to be honest. I resonated with all these things, like literally all 10 of them. It's like I could, these could apply to me definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I'd be curious though if there is a correlation with the way that we avoid conflict, because these are all avoidance. I mean, in some sense, because these aren't really healthy approaches,
right,
to conflict. I wonder if some of the way that we naturally go is connected to our temperament, personality, that kind of a thing. Because like you said, you're a red, right? You're an external processor.
Yes.
Like, so that's that get it off the chest. A melancholic internal processor.
Yep.
I'm more likely to just kind of sit here and stew in this and, Eeyore mode it. And the silent treatment and all that kind of thing. I'd be curious if there's a connection to that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Josh. I think temperament has, plays a huge role in how we process things. I mean, absolutely. I think when we ignore our temperament, we're missing a great opportunity to be able to deal with sinful tendencies and be healthier. Yeah.
No, that's good. So, I mean, shifting into kind of that next section that he got into, I know that one of the things I jotted down, and I don't remember how he worded it, because again, this is kind of my shorthand, but essentially a call for us to remember the imago Dei, the image of God, in the person that I'm in conflict with. Right? Whether or not, maybe you're in a work situation and your boss isn't a follower of Jesus, they were still created in the image of God.
Yeah.
And how do I engage with this person recognizing that? How do I engage with this person still affording them dignity and respect because they're a human being created in the image of God?
Yeah.
And if we keep that in mind, maybe hopefully that will influence kind of what we got into next, which is all about words.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anything you wanted to?
Yeah. I mean, I would say maybe just right before that, I really appreciated just this little nugget where he said, a lot of us are looking at the gospel itself as a destination or sanctification and destination. Is that what he said?
Salvation.
Salvation and destination.
I just wrote gospel's not just a past event. It's here and now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he was kind of teeing the message up to say, how does the gospel inform conflict resolution? So many people, I think, it is just that. And he even said, a one-time prayer. Like you just, I said, I invited Jesus into my heart. So I'm going to heaven. That's my faith expression. That's who I am. And that's the end of it. But the gospel is present in every part of our lives, including conflict, that's a more rounded, holistic way of looking at the gospel. The gospel is more than saving and just heaven. There's more to the gospel. I mean, we have been entrusted as image bearers. We're incarnational. We're souls with bodies, and in these bodies we have. How do we live out the gospel in our bodies, in our physical bodies? How do we do that? And I think, I even wrote down the gospel is a way of living. It's a way. Oh. It's actually a way to live. It's not just about going to heaven, or it should inform every part. Everything. It should be ever present.
Yeah, it's a holistic thing. Yeah. All right.
Then the bulk of the message
getting
shifted
into
towards
kind
words.
of the idea of words.
Yeah.
So, what direction do we want to go with that? He went to James 3, which is one of those go-to passages when it comes to the words that we speak. Right. This thing that's set on fire by hell, right? Pretty strong language,
really
from
strong.
the half brother of Jesus, right there.
He started in Matthew 15, though, didn't he? I believe it was Matthew 15, because he was kind of setting up the point that what we say is what's in our hearts.
Well, that's back in that Matthew 12. I had Matthew 15 a little later when he got into those couple of those different points.
I got it backwards, but Yeah, I found that to be really interesting. You know, so many people will say, you know, oh, I didn't mean that. You know, they'll say something awful, and it's like, well, actually, I think you did.
On some level, to some degree.
Yeah. It was inside,
Yeah.
and it came out in the way that we speak. I've said this often. I said this in a worship team discipleship time here a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you were in on this one, Josh, but that's one of the first barometers for me is coarse language. Like when and Ryan talked about that as well. Like that's one of those things, like when I'm a little more free with language that I normally wouldn't use. That's a quick, like, there's some lights on the dashboard that are lighting up saying, wait a minute, there's something out of whack.
Will it totally derail us if we go down that line of conversation?
I don't think so.
So because this is one that I don't know, my brain just stews on a little bit.
Okay.
Just the idea, you know, because people go to Ephesians 4:29.
Sure.
Like, no unwholesome talk come out of your
Sure.
mouth, but only what's helpful for building others. You know.
Yeah.
So much of the scripture that we see on words and our tongue, all this stuff, it's relationally influenced, right? Ephesians 4:29, unwholesome, I would suggest, is paired to the either building up or tearing down.
It's implication to the person you're speaking to.
Right.
Okay.
It's rather than, oh, hey, here's a list of bad words that we shouldn't say.
Right.
As a
Sure.
as a follower of
Sure.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. But we use it that way sometimes.
Yes.
We think, oh, he just said a bad word.
Right.
Like, I can't believe it. It's like,
Yeah.
No, I think we do have filters, right? In a lot of the ways.
Cultural.
Yeah. But like, what is this? Like
Right.
when Paul said unwholesome talk, or when he talks about coarse joking in whichever one of the epistles he talks about, right? He makes references to language a few different times, right? What was he actually talking about?
Right.
Is that culturally based?
Right.
You know, to
Was the F word in the New Testament?
Well, but even that, you see cultural difference, right? And I'm not trying to get away to where we can drop the F-bomb, but
right.
Even the way that they use that particular word in Europe is different than it is in the States.
Right.
Right. So like, okay, well, is it right? Is it wrong? Like who determines that?
Yeah.
And so, but I think we sometimes we create these lists of good words and bad words, on top of which, right? I mean, again, if we use it in a way that's demeaning to somebody, well, that fails the
test. Or
loss
of temper, an explicative that comes out when you've run out of patience.
Now, are you talking like with somebody else?
I'm just talking about so a lot of times I think explicatives, particularly, they come out as an outburst of wrath.
Well, I mean, I hit my thumb with a hammer.
Yes.
I mean, what do you say when you hit your thumb with a hammer?
We're on a podcast. I can't say
well, no, but I'm just saying, like,
exactly.
What would be okay?
Right.
Is it the word, or is it that I say something in anger? Right. If I hit
the anger side.
If I hit my thumb with a hammer,
yes,
and I say macaroni and cheese, like if I just made macaroni and cheese, like
the spirit's still the same.
Is that so? It's not actually the language.
Yes.
Right? So.
I see what you're saying, but I mean, there are these cultural, it's normative. Like, okay, what do we understand to be coarse language?
Okay, but then how does that vary from one audience to another?
It does. Oh, it does vary.
Because if I'm hanging out with a group of people and to them that's normal and there's zero, and I'm not saying that I'm going to go in there and just like you're going to drop an F-bombs or whatever, but is it sinful for somebody in that situation to use that language if nobody around them is offended by that?
Yeah.
Because all of people, they'll be like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Sorry. And I was like, I'm not offended at all.
No.
By the language that you use.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, and maybe this is bad. Like there are people that will they'll use the name of Jesus but they're not following Jesus.
Right.
Why would I expect them to revere this name?
Right. Right. If they aren't saved by that name, why do they wouldn't respect it?
Right.
It's not
so
something.
I'm not offended by that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the context of Scripture, and particularly the scriptures that Ryan shared, I think it's based upon cultural understanding of what is acceptable and what isn't, and then also the context of being a believer. Like he kept saying, if you noticed yesterday, he kept saying church, brother and sister. He kept identifying. It's like, hey, these scriptures are talking to people who have confessed Christ as Lord. And that changes us. That informs how we speak. That informs how we live, what we do, how we manage conflict. Yeah.
But I would say it's not just, hey, I'm a follower of Jesus. Here's a list of words you don't say.
I don't think so.
So
no, I would agree with you. No, I would agree with you definitely.
But okay, sorry. That's just a little.
It's good.
It's a little pet peeve of mine. Good. So, how are we doing on time?
I'll keep waking up my phone here to tell me what's going on. We're doing good.
Okay. Now we're watching for 50, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
what we say is in our hearts.
What we say is in our hearts. Do we want to jump into those 2 points that he made?
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain's bouncing all over the place. He made the good point. He's like, hey, you don't have to say everything that comes to mind.
Oh man.
Like I think he could have just said that statement, like it walked off stage. Like if we could live into that truth, we would avoid a lot of the junk that we wind up in.
# social media.
Right. Which, okay, let's go down that route.
I have a personal testimony about this.
I was so happy that he said that. I mean, I was in first service.
Yes.
And he talked about that.
Yeah.
But man, social media has become just this
dumping ground,
litter box of. because people are just dropping their crap and walking away, right?
Yeah.
It's, and people will spout stuff off, and I think this compounds that problem, right? Go back to unhealthy approach number 9, was it? Yeah. Where I vent to my friends,
right?
Instead of going to the source of my conflict. I think social media has made that even worse because now not only I'm not just going to a friend and say, oh man, JB, you wouldn't believe what this jerkbag did, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just putting this out there into the ether.
It's so embarrassing.
Anybody that I'm connected to,
it's so embarrassing,
has the potential to see this. And my question is, what do we actually accomplish by doing that? Now, sometimes,
do you feel better?
Sometimes,
yeah.
Now, I mean, this is unfortunately something that reinforces bad behavior, because maybe I put it out there, and now, I've got all this group of people that are on my friends list. Oh man, yeah, you're right. So-and-so is a real, they're a jerkbag. We should throw rocks at him. And it's now I've garnered support, and that reinforces
your narrative,
unhealthy behavior on my part, because now I feel validated and justified in these things that I'm feeling, and I never actually go to the source.
Yeah.
What does Scripture show us about conflict when we have conflict with somebody? Matthew 18, which is kind of where I thought we were going to go, right? Like, hey,
1-to-1.
If somebody does something against you, you go to that person directly. Directly to that person. The only time you get somebody else involved is if you address them with this sin that's happened. And that's the other thing. Sometimes we get our panties in a twist about things that aren't actually sinful.
They're not sinful.
And they painted their house gray, and I wanted them to paint their house blue.
It's like, not a Matthew 18 situation.
No. But if there's been a legitimate sin committed against you, you go to that person. The only time you included somebody else is if they don't listen. Then it says you bring 2 or 3 others along to bear witness. Right. And if they still don't listen, then you bring this before the church. I mean, this is a pretty significant thing.
Cast them out.
Yeah. You cut them off from the
no
fellowship.
More communion.
Yeah, this is significant. Go back to the episode that we had, I don't know, a few episodes ago when we talked about just the Eucharist. But yeah, social media, it's terrible.
It's, to me, Ian and Chad and I were talking about this on our trip, because it was just amazing to see the lack of EQ around people.
You got to unpack that, because people think
emotional intelligence, right? It is how many people will just sit and square up with you shoulder to shoulder and talk for 15 minutes, literally straight. They don't ask you any questions. Like growing up, it was like your parents taught you, someone says to you, "How are you, Josh?" You say, "I'm fine, thanks."
I'm fine.
How are you? Right? You ask them.
That's right.
How many people are not emotionally intelligent, and we see that kind of stuff spewed out on social media. To me, it's so embarrassing and cringy when I see very personal when you see personal details out on Facebook. I'm like, ugh, what are you doing? Why would you do this? This is embarrassing. You have embarrassed yourself by doing this, because it's just distasteful.
Well, and here's the deal. Like, if you're a follower of Jesus, are you helping or hurting the kingdom?
Right.
By airing all your garbage out there. Right. And in addition to the Matthew 18 passage, right, you also see, I think it's in 1st or 2nd Corinthians 6, where Paul is actually talking to believers about lawsuits. And he is rebuking the Corinthian church. He's like, hey, you don't handle conflict the way that the world does. Right? You have a beef with somebody, you go to them and you restore this with the church leadership. You don't utilize worldly methods to accomplish some version of resolution.
He says, wouldn't it be better that you be wrong?
Yes. Yes. Which taps into the passage Ryan shared out of Philippians 2. Right? Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourself. Yeah. What if I approached every conflict thinking, you know what, this person is probably right? I don't know. I mean,
that's hard, Josh.
Oh no, I'm not saying that I've got that mastered. But what if that was our mindset?
Yeah. I thought it was amazing. Ryan said, what we say is what's in our hearts, but he really pulled on that thread. Speech equals maturity. The way a person speaks, controlled speech equals also a controlled body. That scripture that he read, looking at that as a barometer for spiritual maturity, how someone speaks, that really resonated. I was like, oh, there's truth there. I mean, obviously, it's
what's that? What's that saying? Right, better to be silent and thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt. Kind of thing.
Proverbs are full of it, and he shared quite a few. Proverbs 10, Proverbs 16, Proverbs 18. There's so many more. It's my practice, and I would encourage every listener and viewer to do this as well. A proverb a day for life.
There you go.
Read a proverb every day.
Are you saying a chapter or just
chapter a day? Yeah. A chapter a day. You get to chapter 31, go back to chapter 1 and just keep reading the Proverbs. You'll be surprised, because you'll be in situations and God will remind you of that proverb. Like, oh, this applies here.
Now, you do have to bear in mind, right, with Proverbs, remember, principles are not promises, right? So people look at hey, train up a child in the way that he goes, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. Right. That's not a promise, like, because your kid still has free will, agency, right? Like, you could do everything right, and your kid's a total wackadoo. Yeah. But I mean, so as you read through it, you're not a total wackadoo.
Well, I was. I was.
But you're not anymore.
No.
So you came around.
So maybe it is true.
Oh, what? Well, because it does say when he's old, he won't depart from it.
I'm pretty old.
Yeah, you're not very old, but you're older than you were when you were younger.
Yes, time keeps on slipping. Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I'm my brain's all over the place.
No. Speech equals maturity. I think that's a good, it's a good thing to consider. Yeah.
Well, go to some of and I'm trying to remember if they have stuff with speech in particular, but like some of the rare leadership material and just the phases of life, the maturity. I'd be curious to go back through some of those phases to see what they have to say about speech. Because that's a really fascinating way to look at maturity, is the material that Wilder and Warner and all that crew.
Fantastic. I was talking with Jennifer Smith in the worship center yesterday, and we were both kind of just talking about how things change as you get older. And she is not older. I am. I don't know how old she is. I'm pretty sure she's younger than I am. Because I know Paul is older than her, but at any rate, you never ask a lady her age. I didn't do that. But we were saying, as you get older, your declarative statements, like the things that you are just so convinced of, the wars that you fight, the battles, all those things that you're just like, all that stuff starts softening. You see those two. I'd shared with you, Father Ronald Rolheiser, these two trajectories, the old fool or the foolish fool. There's this trajectory towards a hardening of the heart with age, or a softening of the heart with age. And I think speech is a part of that as well. You'll find, it's people seem to get sweeter or more crass with age, depending on the path that they're on. And speech is a really big indicator of what path that person's pursuing. Is the gospel a way of living for them, or are they just faith adjacent, or whatever it might be?
No, that's good. All right. So where are we at with time?
We're probably about 30 minutes. We got a good 20 minutes, Josh.
Oh, so we got some time.
Oh yeah, you're
right on, man. Right on. So towards the end, he brought up a couple of points and kind of parked there for a bit. The first one was that our tongue should glorify and edify.
Talk about those words.
So that's where he went to Ephesians 4, 29. Although I wanted to add, I'm going to read that.
Okay.
I'm going to read that. We talked about 29 here a minute ago, but I want to read a couple of extra verses if I can find it. I'm going to go all the way, I think, through 32.
Okay.
It says this in Ephesians 4, starting in verse 29. No foul language should come from your mouth, but only what is good for building up someone in need, so that it gives grace to those who hear. And don't grieve God's Holy Spirit. You were sealed by him for the day of redemption. Let all bitterness, anger, and wrath, shouting and slander be removed. Shouting. That one is interesting. Like, shouting.
I've never heard that.
And slander be removed. This is the CSB. Let those be removed from you along with all malice. And be kind and compassionate. So now we were getting kind of like the contrast. It says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving one another, just as God also forgave you in Christ. And I think that extends into the conflict conversation as well. Right? Just if we go at it with that posture of forgiveness, if we go into it compassionate, right? Like, hey, I'm gonna trust that this person, maybe somebody is lashing out at me. Can I go into even that situation with a heart of compassion? Like, oh man, like what's hurting in them that they're lashing out at me like this? Is there a wound there? Is there, whatever?
I was at the end of the service. I actually almost went to find you and Ryan after first service, because I just that scripture in 1 Samuel, and we've talked about it here before. David and his armor bearer are walking down a path, and this gentleman by the name of Shammai is kind of walking parallel to them, and he's cursing David, and he's throwing rocks at David, you man of blood. Like he's saying all these awful things to David. And David's armor bearer says to King David, let me go take this dog's head off. Like literally, that's what he says. I'm going to put an end to this fella. And David says, whoa. What if God is present in Shammai's words? What if there's a grain of truth? And I almost went to you guys to share this with the body yesterday, thinking, can we go into conflict with a heart like David's to say, as the Shammais come to us, and the Shammais are cursing and throwing rocks, and 99.9% of what they're saying is total wrong, it's not right at all. Where can we take something from that and grow? Now, we do know later on that David on his deathbed grabbed one of his guys and said, by the way, do not let Shammai's head go down in peace. So he had him put to death later on. So he held this grudge. David held the grudge later on. Again, there's all kinds of great things about the life of King David that we could emulate. But that's
probably not one of them.
Well, there's a ton of stuff in David's life. It's like, no, I do not want to be like David.
Don't do that.
But how do we enter conflict, thinking in that way? Like, God, what can I grow? How can I learn from this? Because there's always something, there's always something to learn. We had an elderly woman. She's gone on to be with the Lord a long time ago. Not related to me. Velma Brown was her name. And Velma had a saying. Velma would say, there's two sides to every board. One's always stuck in the mud. It was a Velma proverb, right? And the idea is like the proverb says, the fool hears only one, vents his opinion before hearing both sides of the story. Even in that conflict, you have a side, this person has a side, but there's a space and a place to grow. And I think that is some maturity in our lives when we can get to that place where it's like, okay, like this person's being a jerk bag, if I can use Josh's jerk bag, but what do you have for me, Lord? God, how are you present? And I'll use a spiritual direction term. God, how are you coming to me in the midst of trial and tribulation and insult. How are you coming to me? Because you're present here. You have the ability to speak to me through this. I'm open to what you have to say. Speak, Lord, for your servant's listening.
Yeah, I mean, because we're in a world of trouble if we go into a conflict and our goal is to win or whatever. I mean, if we go into a conflict and our goal is to win, like we've already lost.
Yeah.
I mean, before it's even started.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of something both my dad told me at one point, and I think of something my father-in-law says. My father-in-law, he said, and I'll PG it for those that. But he says, let's say you've got somebody right in this middle of this conflict, right? Like they're slinging crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so you got a choice, right? You can go in and you can start slinging crap. What happens?
Right.
No, we just both end up covered in crap. I mean,
Some wisdom there.
What good does that do?
Right.
And then I
wisdom.
remember a conflict. This was years and years and years ago. Conflict, and I was super frustrated. And so I reached out to my dad, just say, Dad, like I need wisdom, like speak into this thing.
Yeah.
And my dad said words, and I've never forgot it. I've never forgot it. He says, Josh, he says, it is always better to do what is right than to be right. And because I was like, my natural bent was, oh no, like I'm gonna out argue, I'm gonna out reason, out logic, outdo any argument you bring against me. I'm gonna shut it down.
Yeah.
And my dad says, no, like that's not the way to do it.
That's definitely my tendency.
No.
Oh yeah. Yeah. To be right rather than do right.
So if we go into it, like you're saying, with that posture of, all right, hey, is there some truth for this?
Yeah.
Is there something I can learn from this? What is my contribution to this? Because very rarely are things 100% one-sided.
Yeah.
So what is my contribution here?
And even shift your language. Just say, not is there anything, but what?
Yeah, what is it?
What is it? Like David says, seek my heart, see if there be any wicked way in me.
It's more of a see what wicked ways are in me, because it's there.
Yeah, we know this isn't even a singular thing. There's plural. God, just whatever's inside, I need you to show it to me so I can get rid of these things. Bring it to you, bring it to your cross, and live a victorious life. How do we shift our thinking like that in conflict?
No,
it's tough.
It takes practice.
Yeah, it does.
It takes practice.
It does. Yeah. Glorify and edify. What about those two words, though, Josh? How does speech glorify, and how does edify is not a word we really use often?
No, but this points to the vertical and the horizontal dimensions.
Okay,
right. The glorify, right? This is that vertical. Right? Are the words that I'm speaking, right? Are these things that honor God?
Right.
Right. That, and I would say this contributes to that horizontal piece. Go back to the idea of us being image bearers of God.
Right.
Right. I mean, anything we speak ill towards another person, we speak ill towards
they bear his image.
Creator. So, I mean, do we glorify him in the way that we speak? Again, this is why I think there are some things that are totally off the table for us as far as Jesus. We can't use his name in a profane way, right?
No.
To take something holy and use it, for commonplace or derogatory things, like that's off the table.
Yep.
Right. Yep. So we don't do that, because that's the opposite of glorifying his name. That's dragging it through the mud. Right. And then the edify, this is the building up. Right. How do I encourage or build you up? Right. This is the language in Ephesians 4:29. Only what's helpful to build others up, that it would benefit those who listen. Now, build up and benefit, that doesn't mean that it's always flowery or like fake positive. Like, like you're just so good. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Right. No. I mean, there can be a painful aspect to that. Right.
Sharpening.
Growth can be painful, right? Proverbs 27, right, talks about this iron sharpening iron, right? There's friction, there's resistance, and that's how we grow or hone our skills. But we have to look at the heart. Like, is my heart in going into this conversation, into this conflict, is it to build this other person up, or is it to build myself up? And if I have to tear them down in the process, well, you know what? Yeah. Survival of the fittest.
Josh, would you say that edification and encouragement could in some ways be synonyms?
I think there's overlap.
Okay. So what would it look like if we were to go into a conflict, particularly having a point of view that we know is different from the other person's, and willfully say, I'm coming into this conflict, this difference of opinions, with encouragement? How can I encourage this person while I continue to disagree? Because nobody's asking us to just like put on a BS face and say,
It's
I
cool.
I don't believe this to be true or whatever. This is one of those things. Here's a topic I will tell you about. A topic, the pro-life topic, right? That's a topic where I can come into a conversation with someone and be right and be wrong at the same time, because I just I can't even listen to this talk about this. I cannot even abide what you are saying. And I always say the same thing. It's very convenient that you are pro-choice when you have already been born. You can already hear the tone of my voice changing and how a little bit fierce I'm getting. It's convenient that you get to have that opinion. At any rate, that's one of those things okay, how can I even go into a conversation like that where I know it's this person is completely on the other side of the planet.
So, but even with that, right? We didn't go down this line last week when Nicole and I did the episode, but her and I had a conversation afterwards, and one of the lines of conversation that she kind of wishes we had tapped into was just the idea of and essentially assume the other person has a good heart, and she actually used the political realm as an example of that. Right, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, at the end of the day, now, I mean, this is a generalization, right? At the end of the day, we're probably trying to promote what we feel like is best for the country.
Yeah.
Right? We're misguided. But guess what? Republicans are misguided. Democrats are misguided. Libertarians are misguided. Yeah. None of us are doing it perfect. Right? But if I can go into a conversation to go to that, hey, I'm going to go into a conversation with somebody's approach it. You know what?
Yeah.
Man, I wonder what the heart is behind that.
Yeah.
I might not agree with it.
Right.
But I mean, man, if they genuinely feel like this is something that's important, the best for people.
Right.
How do we meet in this place of, hey, we both want
I have no idea.
And you're gonna struggle with that one. Yes. But again, what if we could go in assuming that they do have a good heart?
Yeah.
And that their goals are similar, if not the same as ours. Mm-hmm. They're taking a different route to get there, and they're going to highlight different issues or different areas. Because again, you come to the politics. Yeah, it's gotten to be such a dumpster fire.
Even coming into those kind of conversations, it's hard for me not to go to Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is desperately wicked beyond understanding. Who can even know it?
And that's as applicable to me, as it is to the person who votes differently than I do.
Well, yes, voting. I'm not even talking about voting.
But I mean, just to stay in that political,
in the vein of intense conflict.
We assume, We often assume, I have the righteous position, and they are the blasphemous.
But don't you believe, Josh?
We're gonna get some conflict right here.
There are certain issues that we're right about. And you cannot pretend But
there are issues that they're right about.
Sure.
And this is where I'm saying, in general, from a political thing,
There are these certain things, though, that there is a declarative. I think that there's an authority in God that we can stand on the word of God to say, for instance, okay, let's go real radical, real sideways. And I have this as a clause in my contracts. So my production company, when I send a contract to somebody, they don't have a time-based, there's no time. Meaning a person, they're not in it for 12 months or anything. And I literally will say to this client, I need to sleep at night. And so if in 2 weeks, for whatever reason, you become convinced that Buddha is also a way for people to get to heaven, you start teaching that, I can say, I'm not producing that content anymore because I don't believe that that's true. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through him. And vice versa. They can quit if we start doing a terrible job at our, So I think that there are they're bridge burners. They're deal breakers. There are some things out there that I think are, and in conflict, that's really difficult because there are places that we can be where we know in this particular circumstance, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it's right. We're right in this situation, but how we're right, that's where
but also, can you, even in those moments, let's go back to your pro-life, pro-choice example.
Yeah.
You're sitting down across the table from somebody who's just, they're very, they hold tightly to a pro-choice position.
Right.
Are you able to allow for, hey, what's the heart that drives
Oh
that?
yeah,
You know,
have
I mean,
conversation.
because
Sure.
you know what, they might
Yeah,
get misguided, whatever.
yeah.
We don't know where they're coming
It's
from.
not out of left field. There's something informing
what
them.
heart fuels that.
Yeah.
You know.
There's something that's informing every decision that we make. We are the sum of our actions.
And I think coming to a place of even being able to, hey man, what is it that drives this for you?
Mm-hmm.
Let's set
Yeah.
politicians and all
Yeah.
that stuff aside.
Yeah.
Like what's the heart behind this?
Yeah. And there's joy questions, you know, there's fulfillment questions there and how we, a lot of good stuff there.
Okay.
So glorify and edify. What about number 2?
I'm
He had
hoping
he had a blank black table stand
Yes.
that we stared at
Yes.
to help us help us see this one.
This is about having ears to hear, which I mean he clarified, right? This is not listening to respond,
Yeah.
and that's another skill. Fortunately, it's a learnable skill that if we can get down, this will help us
It's uncommon.
in conflict, right? Because if you come to me and there's some point of conflict between the two of us, and you're speaking your piece, and the whole time I'm on my brain, well, you wait till I lay this one out on you, big guy. Like, let's go, come on,
Let's go.
like we're not gonna have productive conversation,
Yeah.
right? But can I actually pause and where are we at? Oh, we got 6 minutes. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to land the plane with a question,
Okay.
but yeah.
Well, so I mean, he gave some tips with this, and like I said, this is a learnable skill. You
Listening,
can go
good.
to YouTube, just type in active listening,
Sure.
and you can find all
Yeah.
kinds of different tips and tricks. I'll hit on the ones that I wrote down from him
got
yesterday.
like a sparkle on my face here. You see this light?
Oh, yeah?
It's coming from the. Oh, actually, I think it's coming from my phone, off the window over here, and I've got some here too. There's like a.
He's sparkly.
I didn't
at
close the
sparkly.
blinds. At any rate, active listening.
So he said eliminate distractions. You know, big one. I can't really like these guys right here.
Yes.
These are all kinds of convenient, but they're also all kinds of problems. It drives me crazy. You go to a restaurant, right, and you'll see like a couple sitting at the table, like and they're both staring down at their phones. It's like, what the words I can't say is wrong with you? Like, cut that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so get rid of distractions. Sometimes you need to have that conversation. Maybe it means, hey, kids, go play in the other room.
Let's go for a walk.
We need let's go for a walk. That kind of a thing. Don't dismiss or correct. Right. If I'm in a place of listening,
Yeah, that's not the time to dismiss or
this is not
correct.
I'm not gonna sit there and rebut what they're.
It's antithetical.
what they're saying. It's kind of like he talked about this little tent thing. My wife has Native American heritage, right? So we will sometimes with our kids use a talking stick. All right, hey, you got the talking stick.
Oh yeah,
Like,
no, that's good.
You know, wait for solutions until everyone is heard. Right, everyone's been able to kind of speak their piece.
Yep.
Now let's jointly work towards some resolution.
Superlatives.
Yeah. Avoid the always and never.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Well, you always. No, they
not
they
true.
don't. This is one we try to teach. Nicole and I try to teach our kids. Like, well, you never, discipline so and so. We do. You're just not privy to that information.
Superlatives are lies.
They are.
They're lies.
They are.
Almost all the time, they're lies. They're deceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last one I wrote down was no name calling.
No name calling.
And
Yeah, that's
I
good.
would add to that, right? Like, and it's one of the unhealthy things, right? Don't drag up the past. Hey, we're trying to solve this conflict right now. This is
Record of wrongs.
There should never be this. Well, yeah, but hey, but remember like
Right.
30 years ago when you did like, who cares? Or remember last week? Nope.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. So particularly in marriage, friendship, whatever, maybe you need to create rules for a fair fight. And that includes, hey, we're not going to bring up the past.
Yeah. Pete Scazzaro and Jerry Scazzaro, husband and wife, Emotionally Healthy Discipleship, have some amazing content on this, on active listening. I would tell you to check that out. Josh, we don't have time to unpack this question because we need to talk about subscribing. No. I always go away thinking, okay, if speech is such a big part of conflict, and that was the teaching I felt like Ryan gave us yesterday, was just to understand that. How do we change our speech? How do we begin the process? Listeners, viewers, maybe unpack that a little bit in your own minds and hearts. How do we actually, if what's coming out of our mouths is actually what's in our hearts, ultimately, what are we saying to God? We're saying, I need my heart to be changed. And how do I change the heart? I do believe it's spiritual disciplines and practices.
I think that's a big part. Some of it is you go back to your emotional intelligence kind of thing. Like there's a self-awareness. Sometimes we don't even realize that what we're saying is.
But it's there. It's inside.
Oh yeah, but I mean, sometimes we need somebody to shine a light on it. That's the power. One of the powers of community.
Yeah.
Right, to have people are like, do you realize?
That sounds yucky when you say that.
Did you mean to say this? I think again, go to the temperaments. I'll sound like a broken record with that.
Yeah.
But
I said this, you heard that.
Recognizing that the words that I speak, maybe you're totally cool with me saying that.
Right.
But that's gonna cut somebody else to the core. It looks at, which I think that is also a good tool, because I think one of the things that fuels conflict is unmet needs.
Yes.
I mean, in a marriage, in a workplace, in a friendship, like if I have a need, it's not being met, that's probably going to fuel conflict. Versus if I'm aware of the other person's needs and I can contribute to actually building them up, meeting needs, we could avoid a lot of the stupid things that we end up fighting about.
Agreed.
Sorry, we're just
we're
like home stretch there.
Episode 67. Friends, help us. We're so close. We're so close to that 1,000 subscriber mark here on Radiant Reflections. Remember, this is teaching ministry of Radiant Life and also the podcast. Like and subscribe. Subscribing is one of the most important things you can do. And then sharing the podcast is how we get new subscribers and new people interested. Shout out to all of those who I see regularly sharing Radiant Reflections on your Facebook feed, particularly. That's a fantastic way to engage people. So thanks for joining us. Next week, we will be remote because we're going to a leadership conference to grow as pastors and staff members. And
it's good stuff.
Yep.
Thanks, Devon, again for the coffee.
Yeah, thanks, Chups. God bless you guys. See you later.